Welcome to Worldwide Business. I'm Kathy Ireland. We all rely on electricity and many modern electrical devices every day. But did you know they create electrical pollution that can have dangerous health implications? Greenwave International is an expert in reducing electrical pollution in homes and other settings. Co-founders Richard Lear and Jean Zakor and Director of Communications Kim O'Neill-Lear are here with an important message. Welcome to you all.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much, Kathy.
Thank you.
Richard, can you please educate us about the hazards of electrical pollution and what that does to our health?
Absolutely. So electrical pollution and health, two big topics today. Electrical pollution is a lot like air pollution. And instead of chemicals, you have electrical energy, too much of it. And it's no surprise, in the last 10 or 15 years, electrical devices have proliferated. And if you just take cell phones, 15 million cell phones in the 90s, it's now over 5 billion worldwide. So with all this electrical pollution, we have devices. Each one of them creates its own electromagnetic field, and that extends out into the environment. It penetrates the environment, and it penetrates people. So people are starting to wonder about this electrical pollution. In 2000, the World Health Organization did a study. They looked at the electrical activity of the Earth. And what they found is that the levels were 1,000 times higher than the natural environment. That was 2000. 16 years later, any town or any city in the US, you're going to find electrical levels 4,000 times as great as 2000. So we've had this burgeoning electrical pollution, and people want to know what's happening with our health. So in 2012, 30 scientists from around the world produced a report. It's called the Bioinitiative Report. They looked at 3,000 studies, and they determined that electrical energy is connected to health effects. And they saw things like brain cancer, breast cancer, leukemia, autism, Alzheimer, all the big diseases that are exploding today were connected to electromagnetic fields. And they warned governments and said, you need to control the levels in your environment better. So at Greenwave, we look at electric pollution, and it's two big categories. There's wireless and there's wired. And we create technology that approaches the dirty electricity piece, which is the wired piece. And that's where we start.
Jean, can you please share with us how Greenwave is working to address these challenges?
Sure. So we started the company to provide a solution to this ongoing problem in homes and offices, really anywhere that there's wiring. The best way to describe dirty electricity is erratic electric energy that rides along the wiring of the power line. It radiates potentially harmful excess power sort of frequencies into your environment. We built a meter that targets those frequencies, right? And then we have a filter that essentially removes it off the line. Remember, most people live in an electrical environment a good part of their day, whether they're working in a retail store or in an office or at home. Electricity is all around you. The wiring is on all the walls usually, and above and below it, depending upon the home or the office you're in. We also continue to educate people on other ways they can reduce their exposure beyond the filters to dirty electricity. And there's other ways you can do that to live in a healthier environment. So we spend a lot of time on the phone with folks, because people are calling all the time trying to learn about this kind of new concept, if you will.
I figured out the electrical was an issue because I realized I could sleep well in some places and not in others. And I just started kind of putting it together and saying, what's different about this location from this location? And it really came back to the electrical environment. So, and then once I started getting meters to be able to measure that, it then became very clear that I could measure what was going on, and my body could kind of sense a little more anxious when there was a lot of electrical noise or dirty electricity in that environment, and my sleep just improved dramatically. So I just felt better after I was sleeping well again. So what I like about the Greenwave filters, they're just simple. They're inexpensive and they're simple. You plug them in. You've got a way of measuring your success, which is great if you've got the meters with them. And they are very inexpensive solution to a problem that can be quite complex. So the advice I'd give to myself in the past and to viewers now is, don't underestimate the impact of the electrical environment on your body. So if you're going through some sort of chronic condition, if you're not sleeping well, if you've got some sort of inflammatory condition, don't just think about genetics and food and toxins. Go one step further and look at the electrical environment. Look at your magnetic fields, electric fields, dirty electricity, and the wireless environment as well.
Richard, can you please tell us more about Greenwave? Why was it created?
Yeah, it's a great story. About 6 years ago, I had the opportunity to meet with a noted scientist from Canada. Her name is Dr. Magda Havas. And Dr. Havas was doing a study at the time in schools, looking at the electrical energy in schools and how it affected children, their behaviors, and their learning experience. And what she found, she tracked 13 ADD behaviors. These are attentional behaviors. And she found when you reduce the dirty electricity in the environment, the kids did better. 30% in 13 categories. So this was amazing. What's even more amazing is the teachers who administered the surveys. They were feeling better. Less headaches, better sleep, better concentration, their joint and muscle pain, sort of autoimmune type symptoms were going away. So the environment was transformed. And she did this in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Canada. So when I heard this, I was startled, and I talked to Jean, and we did some research and said, the world needs to know about this.
Right.
You could filter this, it's possible. So we went out and did some research, and we located one of the top 3 companies in the world that deals with EMI, that's electrical magnetic interference.
Okay.
And this company we've partnered with to build filters. And we started around 2009, we're 5 generations of filters later, and here we are today.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Kim, can you please explain dirty electricity and how is it created?
Well, dirty electricity is one of 3 main sources of electrical pollution in our homes. And I think the easiest way to understand sort of what it is to know a little bit more about how it's actually generated. And it's basically associated with our use of electricity. And it's created by all of the modern electronics, energy efficient lighting, and other electrical devices that we use every day as they're operating. It's actually not a new problem, but it has grown dramatically in the last, I'd say, 10 to 15 years. And primarily because these modern electronics use electricity really differently than older, more traditional devices.
So Kim, should people be concerned about dirty electricity in their home and in their favorite places?
Absolutely. I mean, there's really 2 main reasons for concern. First is a phenomenon known as electromagnetic interference, which Rich mentioned. These days, when we turn on an electrical device and it draws power from our wiring, it's not only getting the electricity that it needs to run, but it's also getting all these spikes and surges. And so lots of particularly sensitive equipment have problems with that. So it may interfere with their ability to actually function at their best, or actually damage equipment. But more importantly, maybe in my mind, is that it impacts our health.
Right.
We actually, as human beings, we are electrical beings. You know, our bodies rely on thousands, millions of electrical impulses, both between our cells and within our cells every single day in order to carry out all of the internal work that happens to keep us functioning and staying healthy.
The prevalence of dirty electricity in homes and other buildings is very prevalent. Every piece of electronic equipment has a power supply in it that converts the 120 volts to what you need inside the device. And that is turning on and off more than 20,000 times a second. So that creates dirty electricity. Compact fluorescent lights, LEDs, everything today that doesn't use electricity continuously creates dirty electricity. So it is becoming more and more prevalent.
At Greenwave, we didn't want to just rest our laurels with our filter. We decided to come up with our own meter. And the difference between our meter and other brands' meters that are out there is that the Greenwave meter measures in millivolts, which is a standard electrical unit. There's no discussion as to what it is that we're actually measuring. And 2 things happen with our meter. You get the static line, which is prior to installing the filter, so you know exactly what the reading was before. When you install our filter, you see a reading below it that tells you what effect the filter is having on the EMI in that line. And the second thing our meter does is it gives you an audible signal. So a number can makes you see one thing, but an audible signal lets you know that there is a reduction in the EMI.
The measurement tools are very useful to see the effect of these filters.
Gene, can you please share some of the positive benefits that Greenwave customers have reported after installing your filters?
Sure. So as you've heard, our goal was to provide a solution, and we worked very hard at that, and there's a number of innovations for both products, actually. We don't make any health claims. We provide a solution, obviously, and we can't guarantee any benefits. However, I get calls all the time, daily, honestly, from folks that have bought our filters. A couple of simple examples are a woman that had a cycling accident and used her arm as a hygienist, dental hygienist. So we put the filters in her home, and she reported back the pain went away for the most part, right? Another great example is a woman that was using her inhaler 7 or 8 times a day. We installed filters in her home, and she reported back that she was using her inhaler twice a day. This is the kind of thing I hear a lot of, but these are just early examples, to be honest. Things you'll often people will notice is better mental clarity, sense of wellness, sense of calmness, if you will. If somebody's got headache issues or particular ailments, there'll be a relief from that quite often. I found in my house, believe it or not, that the house felt quieter, and I've heard that from people as well. And the truth is, wiring does have a noise, as you sort of indicate, and we kind of get rid of that. But that's a minor thing. But the benefits seem to be very clear, and people really, they thank me, to be quite honest with you.
And Richard, before we wrap up, would you mind telling us what's next for Greenwave?
Absolutely. So this is the year of expansion for us, 2016. We started in the Bay Area, and we moved to the entire country. We moved to North America, and now we're moving to Europe. And this is our new filter for Europe, which is larger and a little different shape, but this addresses the technology in Europe. And so our EU filter is just coming out, and it's doing quite well. So we're excited about our expansion worldwide. We also have a new meter that we're working on, which is a scientific meter that has a touch screen, it has a graphical interface, and it's a very, very high-tech meter that should be coming out in the market. It's almost a scientific meter, and it should be coming out sometime this summer. The other thing is we've noticed is the health sector, yoga studios, health clubs are starting to install these filters, and they're reporting great results. So we're looking at that sector, the health sector, as a vertical for the company. And we feel like all of business, as you just mentioned, schools, hospitals, and other kinds of business, people can benefit in these environments because they all have dirty electricity and it's all intense.
This has been tremendously informative. Thank you so much for sharing what Greenwave International is doing to reduce risk and keep us protected in this technological age. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.